right. Welcome to What's Happening Now on KBLKradio.com, and thank you for tuning in. This is your host, Bishop Cornelius Bowser, and this morning we have a good one for you. We're going to be talking about a variety of subjects, especially with the elections that just passed and some other things that's going on in the community. We're going to be talking about these issues, and so we want to look at specifically, though, these elections and what it means to blacks. Because, whether we look at the main election that came forward, which is dealing with the presidential run, Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump, and Bernie Sanders, which the three that still remain at this moment. A lot of people are trying to force and tell Bernie Sanders that, hey, get on out of this race and let, Hillary and Trump go for it. Hillary has made history this month, or this week, I should say, or the passing week, based on being a woman, first nominated to a major party, Democratic or political party, as far as being nominated for president. And so, for sure, we most definitely want to talk about that and look at that and talk about it. Now, before Clinton's historic moment, there's a congresswoman whose name is Shirley Chisholm. She paved the way with her presidential campaign in 1972. Now, Shirley Chisholm is a black woman, and she was a congressman. And in 1968, Chisholm became the first African-American woman elected to Congress, representing New York's 12th congressional district for 7 terms from 1969 to 1983. But in 1972, she became the first major party black candidate. She didn't get nominated, but she was a candidate to run for president of the United States, and the first woman ever to run for the Democratic Party's presidential nomination. Now, you don't hear a lot of people talking about that, but we believe that this black woman did pave the way for all other women to be able to run, and people of color. When you had people like Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton and others who were black that ran for the office of the president, she ran before any other black person, at least for a major party. And so in 1992, she became the first major party black candidate. And so there's a woman by the name of Dr. E. Faye Williams, and she's the president and CEO of the National Congress of Black Women. And this is what she said. She said, it was Shirley Chisholm who brought us to where we are. First of all, she paved the way for President Obama as well as for Hillary Clinton. Whatever Hillary Clinton is doing today, she can thank Shirley Chisholm for that. And that's the end of quote. And that's what she said about that. Now, I was looking at this article, and according to an article written by Julia Craven, and it came out of Washington, she said on Tuesday, Hillary Clinton became the first woman to be named the presumptive nominee of a major political party. Let that sink in. 96 years after American women won the right to vote, the U.S. may finally be on the verge of electing its first female president. On social media and in regular media alike, women around the world rejoice. And then she goes on to say, but I was conflicted and I wasn't alone, end of quote. And then she goes on to say, there's no doubt that Clinton's achievement is breathtaking and historic, as the former Secretary of State herself noted in a speech Tuesday night. And this is what Hillary said. Tonight's victory is not about one person. It belongs to generations of women and men who struggled and sacrificed and made this moment possible. In our country, it started right here in New York, a place called Seneca Falls in 1848, when a small but determined group of women and men came together with the idea that women deserved equal rights. And then she goes on to say, not Hillary, but Julia, but the specific racial context of the suffrage movement certainly doesn't do Clinton any favors with black women or other women of color. Elizabeth Cady Stanton, who read the Declaration of Sentiments at the gathering in Seneca Falls, was a well-known racist who didn't believe that all women were created equal. So then, and we quote, the fact that even with all the discussions around racial equality and Clinton being challenged repeatedly by Black Lives Matters on race, that she missed an opportunity to acknowledge black women could not vote is telling of where we stand on the feminist agenda. Tiffany Cordova, a 41-year-old black woman from Illinois, told the Huffington Post via Twitter, it's tempting to invoke feminism and say that non-white women should be happy for Clinton because she is a woman. And certainly many of women of color are happy for her. But for some of us, she says, identity politics just aren't that simple. Many non-white women have taken issue with Clinton's choice to put her achievement in the context of women's suffrage, with the implication that it's a victory that should resonate with all women equally. It's a move that many women only confirms their feelings that Clinton has a blind spot when it comes to race. And I quote here, it was a glaring omission. Hell, my grandmother wasn't part of the group Hillary was referring to, and I don't feel a part of that group today, Cordova said. A lot of times you'll hear the suffragette struggle being compared to the black civil rights struggle. It's not the same. They don't want to acknowledge that their movement was steeped in a lot of racism, and even today with new racism. And that's end of quote. And so the question we have to ask for black America is, who's better for the country? And who's better for us as people of color? Trump, Clinton, Bernie Sanders? And if it is Bernie Sanders, should he run on a separate ticket? Now, let me just say something, because I know a lot of times, especially when you mention the name Donald Trump, people just get all up in arms about it because they feel like he's a racist and made racist statements. And, whether it's dealing with my African American friend, or dealing with, saying that Mexicans are rapists and killers and so on, and all the other things that he said, and attacked various people of color, and said derogatory things. And so we look at that and we say, we most definitely don't want him in there. But, there is a blatant racism, and there is a indirect or subtle racism that we deal with. And so when we're looking at Trump and we're looking at Clinton, we have to ask ourselves the question, which is better? And I know a lot of blacks, because you're Democrat, not only because you're Democrat, but also because a lot of black people have been duped into thinking that, I'd rather vote for Hillary than vote for Trump and he get in there, and so on. But, can either one of these persons make the country better? And that's the thing that we have to look at and have to consider, because sometimes, like I told folks on Facebook, is that I didn't vote for Trump, Hillary, or Bernie, because none of them have really made an appeal to me. And so I'm going to see in the general election, and I know people ain't going to like this, and I hope I don't have to do this, but, even if I don't care if it's Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton or some other person, whoever it is, I'm open to hear all of them. And I'm willing to hear what they're going to do in working with black America and making a difference and bringing a change and so on. And the candidate that makes that appeal and make their case with me is the candidate that I'm going to vote for. And my vote is not limited to a Democrat or to a Republican or a Libertarian or Independent or whoever, but it's the individual that makes the right appeal to me. And so I'm sorry, you can get mad, you can cuss me out, you can say I'm a sellout or whatever you want to say. But I'm telling you, I'm not just going to vote down the ballot and vote along with everybody else. So yes, I'm reaching out to these candidates, whether it's Hillary, whether it's Trump, or even Bernie if he runs on a separate ticket, or whoever else, even the Libertarian. I can't remember his name, so I've got to look him up and see what we can bring, what we can get out of that with him, because it doesn't matter who the candidate is, whether it's Democrat, Republican, whether it's Independent, Libertarian, or anything else. If they are saying the right things and have the right intentions and make it present their case well to me, that's the candidate I will vote for. And let me just say something else. If none of them make the right appeal, when it comes to elections in November, I will go to the polls and vote on initiatives and ballots and measures and local voting for the local race and local candidates and state candidates and even the U.S. attorney. But I will leave the box blank when it comes to the presidential candidate or nominee. So I'm just that's me, and that's where I'm coming from. And so I don't want to never just automatically X somebody out. Not even Donald Trump. And I know people aren't going to like that. But if you can forgive Hillary for all the stuff she's done in the 90s and calling blacks super predators and passing that law, that bill that got hundreds and thousands of black people locked up and unfairly treated and so on. If you can forgive her for that and vote for her and she says she's going to make a change and a difference, then we should be able to forgive anyone for anything that they've done if we're going to try to move forward in the future. I'm just saying, because I know how we get. So that's the least with the presidential race. But we also have a state senate race that is taking place right now, and that race is with Kamala Harris and Loretta Sanchez. Both of these candidates are Democrats, and they're running for U.S. attorney, and they're the two that's going to be running in November in the general election to get your vote. And to my understanding, Kamala Harris kind of got 40% of the vote, and Sanchez 19% or something like that. So I know there's been a big difference between the two. Now, I did in the primaries vote for Loretta Sanchez and not Kamala Harris. But, I'm willing to, first of all, let me tell you, I didn't vote for Kamala Harris because she was missing in action. And when we was fighting the gang conspiracy case here in San Diego, 182.5, and a lot of young men were locked up, and some of them, you should have been locked up, but some of them shouldn't have been locked up. And so, we were fighting for those that did not commit crimes. And we called on Kamala Harris, and she was missing in action. Then when you do your research on the gang conspiracy 182.5 and it's being taken all the way up to the Supreme Court and things like that, you find out that Kamala Harris' signature is on there as the Attorney General who was fighting to get these unfair laws, not only keep them in place, but get a ruling on it that will favor law enforcement versus favoring justice and what is right and what is fair. And so, she most definitely, have some blemishes on her record. But I'm willing to forgive all that and even vote for Kamala, but just like the presidential candidates, she's got to step forward. And, we got to hear from her. At least I want to hear from her and sit down and talk with her and see where she's coming from. Now, I know a lot of people saying, who do you think you are, Bowser? You ain't nobody. Yes, I am somebody. You can think low of yourself, but I'm not thinking low of myself. And my one vote is a powerful vote, and it means a lot, and it represents the majority of how black people think. I'm not in the opposite corner from blacks, but I'm with my black people. So for sure, we need to sit down and talk with her, because I was looking at some things, and I do like some of the things that I did see about Kamala Harris. She did oppose the death penalty. And, blacks are unfairly treated in capital punishment throughout the nation and country, and more of them have been executed than any other race and so on. And so, we have to for sure look at those kind of things, because we want to turn it around and get rid of those type of things, the capital punishment. So she opposes that, and that goes in her favor. That really, stands out to me. And so I'm looking at that, and I was looking at it because a lot of times you want to find out about someone, you look at their critics, and when I look at her critics, come to find out that one of the things that they were saying, that there were fewer people in jail per arrest in her county when she was the district attorney in San Francisco. There were fewer people that were in jail. There were fewer convictions and so on. So that means that she really wasn't caught up and tied into this criminal justice reform. And critics, they can turn the tables and try to make it sound sound worse than what it is. But I believe that she really was, just didn't want to, looking out for people of color, and didn't want to see a lot of people of color unfairly locked up and treated wrong. And so she does have that in her favor also. And so I'm still looking at this, and I may switch and turn my vote from Loretta to Kamala Harris. But we have to sit down and talk and look at this. So, we most definitely need to create a coalition here in San Diego and have a panel to meet with these guys. So right now we're going to go to a break. I want you to stay tuned. When we come back, I do have a very special guest, and I'm not going to tell you who my guest is until you come back. And this person is a powerful person in the community and very outspoken. And so we're gonna have some hot topics. We're gonna talk about it and have a good time. So stay tuned. We'll be right back on What's Happening Now on KBLKRadio.com. All right, welcome back to What's Happening Now on KBLKRadio.com, and thank you for staying with us. And we have a very special guest with us today, Mr. Kahalafa King, Mr. King, with Harmonious Solutions, and he also has a radio show that comes on 1 o'clock on Saturdays, I believe. Am I correct?
That's correct.
And it's called Harmonious Hour, right?
Yes, right.
All right, so you got to tune in on Saturdays too if you already aren't tuning in. Tune in on Saturdays at 1 o'clock p.m. for Harmonious Hours with Mr. King here. So we think Mr. King is one of my elders in the community. I look up to him, and whenever he has something to say, my ears are wide open, and I'm willing to listen. I was one of those that taught you respect your elders. And the Bible said, rebuke not an elder, but entreat him as a father. So that's what I do.
That messed me up. I can't talk now.
So, Mr. King, thank you for being on What's Happening Now, and welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Bishop. I appreciate it. I'm honored and humbled to be here. I'm just, we've never had this opportunity to come together like this.
Yes.
And I really appreciate that the Creator allowed this to happen this morning in this way. It just happened.
God ordained.
That's right. So thank you so much. I appreciate being here.
Amen. When God is in control, He controls it. You just go along with the flow. So, Lord, I'm just going with whatever way you lead us today, Lord.
And that's why I'm here. I'm just going with the flow. God's flow. Right now.
But I do really respect your opinion about many things and various things, whether there's issues that's going on in the city of San Diego or county San Diego or in our nation, and you've been around. I've heard your stories before, but our listeners, probably need to know a little bit about you. And it really amazed me, because you go way back to the US's and Black Panthers and the whole bit. So can you share a little bit with us about that?
Let's see if I can do this in a real quick period of time, since the show is about other folk and not me. Okay, well, yes, I've been here since 1959. I was about 9-10 years old when I came to San Diego by way of Cleveland, Ohio, and Sweetwater, Tennessee. So I had that Midwest, East Coast type bicultural lifestyle, because I also was in Tennessee, built a lot of hay, slapped a lot of hogs, milked a lot of cows, that kind of thing, And my uncle had a tobacco farm, so I worked, so it was, those kind of things. So back and forth, segregated schools, the whole deal. So brought all that with me. That was my foundation coming to San Diego, which was a real culture shock. Right. With all the different ethnicities and languages and smells and looks and stuff. It was just a lot of things to take in for a little 10-year-old boy. Right. But of course, we adjusted as children. We adjusted to a variety of things in our varying environments. So from there, I went to elementary school here and graduated from Lincoln High School. Proud to say that I am a Hornet. For those of you in San Diego, and our engineer is a Hornet as well. So there's a lot of Hornets out there. So so I give a shout out to my Hornet alumni. Yeah, and a veteran of the Air Force, and father.
What year you went in the Air Force?
I went in 68.
Okay.
Yeah, so just very simple, easy, in and out, done. But there were some issues around that, but I won't even go into that because that's another story. When the story's on me, then we can talk about that. Okay. So yeah, and then from there, life, as we will probably talk about some things, started taken some turns because when I did come out of the service, I came out as a service-connected disabled veteran.
Oh, okay.
And so, with that service connection disability, there were some there were some direct barriers for employment, because I know oftentimes we're talking about veterans coming home now from the previous wars we've been in for the last several years, as well as others. I'm a Vietnam era veteran, so that was the unpopular war. I got spit on my uniform in a bus station in Texas once by some white dude, and so I'm just saying I had to hold my cool, couldn't fight. It's just you can't do that. But anyway. There were barriers around that, and just for me, getting exposed to the struggles of poverty and trying to take care of a family as a young father with a child and married, so. Wife and child, then those challenges, because as a man, you want to have this whole sense of what you believe and taught that manhood was about, and you provide and you protect and you profess for your family. Right. You feel me? And so I didn't feel as though I had that. And so with that, my challenge took me into engaging in other parts of my life that were quite dark. All right. And so that led me to some other areas where I said, dang, man, I made some bad choices here. Now that carries with me. Now you got disability, then you got this other jacket on you, and for a black man in America, it's like, hey, and how many millions of us are like that? Right. You know what I'm saying, Cornelius? Yeah. And so oftentimes when I look, but I came from a great family, God-fearing, God-loving, family, not without its dysfunctions. Right. But so all that played into all the choices that I made, from there, I was fortunate enough to to get out of that of that dark life and move on and learn that. That's why I began to learn what was my purpose. Right now, let me ask you. Now, were you was involved in the US organization? No, I was never a member of the US organization or the Black Panthers. Right. But what my engagement was with both of those powerful historic entities was that all the people I went to school with, I grew up with, and my running buddies, they were either in the US organization or they're in the Black Panthers organization. And I won't want to say I was certainly not neutral. I just did not feel as though that I needed to join the organizations. Got you. But I did prescribe to a lot of the tenets of us organization as well as the Black Panthers, because we need to protect ourselves, and we need to know our culture. Right. If you do not have either one of those, it is hard to develop a foundation and a future. Now, that's a blockbuster, what you just said right there, because a lot of people don't understand it. Two things you said is, you're talking about protection, and you're talking about culture. Yes, sir. And people don't understand it. That's why many of these groups are formed, whether Panthers or us, and they say the Crips and Blood is the offspring of the Black Panthers and so on. And that's what it's all about. It originally started with protection and culture. Now it's become a subculture or counterculture, whatever they want to call it, when you talk about the gangs and things like that. But people really don't look at that and understand that. No, they don't. And I think that's when we hear the complaints, about what other cultures are doing, and I'm tired of hearing them Mexicans speak Spanish. I'm tired of hearing those Arabs speak. Well, wait a minute. There's something that I identify that they seem to possess that we don't possess, and that is called common cultural consciousness. So where is our common cultural consciousness? Right. And since I'm not saying that those other groups don't have issues within their groups, but they tend to come together in a common cultural consciousness to maintain a certain foundation and to still support one another and in their movement forward. No matter whether Republican, whether the Democrat, whether they're gay, whether they're lesbian, whether they're Islamic, whether they're Christian, whether they're, they come together to maintain their seed, so to speak. Right. We, on the other hand, have a different approach, and I know there's pockets that we do this in, and that's the problem, Cornelius, is that we have pockets of us doing that, but that means you have a dot over here, a dot over here, a dot over here, and the dots are not connected in any way. So if the dots could be connected, then maybe what we then can do is create a social, create a perimeter, a social perimeter around the preservation and advancement and development of our culture. Right. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah, absolutely. So, So those are the things that are missing. Those are the things that help propel me from getting my butt beat as a 12-year-old boy from drinking out the wrong water fountain by a grown man. I mean, literally having my AAS kit, and all the way up through recognizing things that went on here, because San Diego was no longer what it used to be.
Right.
I see I apologize maybe to get to this, but I see all of the mind shifts that some of us would use the terminology sellouts to the puppet masters, and
now who are the puppet masters?
The puppet masters are the people who control the political machinery and the economic machinery and the social machinery in San Diego, and that would be the government officials. That would be but then you can't stop there, because if San Diego County is allowed to do what they do with the county board of supervisors, as well as all the you're allowed to do, just like all the other municipalities in San Diego County, because we have various cities in San Diego County. If you look at what their track records have been and how they've maneuvered, you would see that particular process cannot be happening without sanctioning from above. So sanctioning from above comes from the state. Then the sanctioning above from that comes from the feds. So all of this is connected, and we pretend like it's not connected, but it's all connected. And for who we are, there was one of my elders had identified years ago to me. Says, what's going on with black people in America, with the white supremacist network, is the fact that black folks have outused their usefulness in America.
Wow. What do you mean by that?
Is that we are no longer, what are we needed for?
Gotcha.
What is the need to have black people in America? The enslavement process is over. We've gained what we need to gain through Jim Crow. We've continued on with this thing called discrimination. Our machine that we exacted this by is called white supremacy, and the vehicle that we use to manage and maintain white supremacy is called racism. And the way we're going to include racism, we're going to make sure that we have a certain sense of oppression. And so if we can oppress, then we can start picking and choosing targets that we want as we fight this war for white supremacy.
Now let me ask you something when you talk about that, because when we look at white supremacy, we look at the usefulness of blacks now, and that you kind of touched on an issue that's in my heart, in the sense of, when I look at these politicians, it's like, man, these folks really don't care what we think, what we say, what we do, or whether we vote for them or not, and so on. So when I look at people like Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, and even Bernie Sanders, we can bring these three people into play. I didn't vote for none of them. My wife did vote for Bernie Sanders, but when you look at these three people, especially Trump and Hillary, we can get into Bernie, but I know one is on the far left and one is on the far right. What is the difference that you would say between the two? I know one is blatant, one is subtle.
Yeah, well, you asked a very good question. I certainly don't have an expert opinion about it. I have thoughts about it, and that at least thoughts would be differing from some of our listeners, and I accept that. To me, I know that we have this three-way process for the moment. I know there's a lot of controversy about what Bernie should or shouldn't do. And I understand, as I was in the green room. I heard part of your broadcast.
In the green room, in your office. All right, I like that.
I was just listening, and I was saying, and it is kind of like the lesser of two evils to a certain point, tweedledee or tweedledum. I just feel as though that all of them have a certain amount of baggage that they bring, and I don't know who doesn't have baggage. Just a matter of what kind of baggage do you really want to help pack and carry. I mean, that's what it really boils down to from a political standpoint. I know that I cannot do anything with the Donald Trump person, because I don't think not only is he racist, bigoted, sexist, all those other things that people have identified,
You say he's not?
He is.
He is, okay.
He is. No. He is. And when you go into his history, you'll find out more about what he really has done to people. And he doesn't give a big brass butt about poor people either. So and they got all these same entities that he's making charges against and insulting and
So let me ask you a question about
supporting
Trump
him.
when we talk about that, because I think it's called Daily Beast or something.
Yeah,
like
the
that.
Daily Beast.
And they had a picture up there of Congressman Ryan, and they were saying, because he said, hey, I still support him, but I disagree with his racist statements and so on. And so they posted up there that he's saying, I'm with the racists.
Right. Right.
And so and so when you look at that and when you think about that, then you hear other people that are saying, and the massive majority, because they feel you can't judge a person's heart, and they say, well, I can't say he's a racist, but what he said is a racist statement, and so on. And I know, and let me just say this, I know that I have said things that were racist statements and made racist comments that I really didn't know. I remember one time I was preaching and I was talking to white folks and I said, those Peckerwoods, and I heard people on TV call folks Peckerwood and so on. So I thought it was okay. But then the members came to me afterwards and said, you can't say that. I said, what you mean I can't say that? I said, I hear them say it on this. They said, yeah, that's just like a black person calling another black person the N-word.
Right.
And so on. So I felt bad afterward, like, wow, okay, I don't want to be labeled like that. So, I mean, when we talk about statements and comments that people make, can it be that he's just not educated on the issue, or do you think he's playing to a certain group of people, or he's just ignorant?
Okay. Well, if you're speaking about Donald Trump.
Yes, I am. Donald Trump.
I think that Donald Trump is very aware of what he is saying, and most of the times, but I think that he is also very narcissistic in his process, in his life process. That
and what do you mean by
well, he's just stuck on himself.
Okay.
So it's all about Donald.
Right.
Just to put it in simple terms.
Gotcha.
And he can never be wrong. He can never be wrong.
Right. And that's true.
And
you're not saying I'm sorry.
Right. And he won't say I'm sorry. So if you can never be wrong and you will never say I'm sorry, what does that leave you with?
Right. Right.
Because that means you will do anything at any time to maintain your rightness.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
And so I think that some of it is out of ignorance, because I think that he may be smart, but he's stupid at the same time.
Gotcha.
Is the way I look at it. I think he's dangerous for the world, not just this country. Anyone who...
And you don't think it's a show when you say danger? You don't think it's a show of he's just trying to, really don't mean it, but he's just trying to put on a show for people that he's tough and hey, some of the things that he's made nationally, internationally.
Well, I could approach that two ways and say, well, yeah, it's a show because it's a narcissistic show.
Right.
It's
right,
about him. So yes, it's a show. Of course, he thinks he's still on The Apprentice.
Right.
So yes, it is a show. However, but it's a show of deliberateness.
Gotcha.
Because the country is extremely divided now, even more so. When Barack was elected, it was divided because the racism started there as soon as he was elected. As soon as he was elected,
I agree.
This country went.
They start showing their true colors.
They went into retro mode. Yeah, man, they manifested in retro mode.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And then many of us who look like us run around here thinking, "Oh, we've arrived. We've come to the Mecca. We've come to the promised land." I'm like, are you guys kidding me? he can only do so much.
Yeah.
He doesn't know that Congress controls everything.
Yeah, exactly.
So if
you
he
have
can't,
states and counties and
right, and then
cities.
after he got elected 2 years later in midterm elections, we went to sleep as people who supported him. They didn't go back to the polls during the mid-election, the midterm. And then he lost his seat. It's like, so it shows me if there's anybody's ignorant, it's the American people.
Right.
In general.
Right.
Because we want to get all of our information from Wikipedia and the internet.
Right, exactly.
We don't want to do no real research.
Exactly.
You feel me? We don't want to read.
Right.
We don't want to have the tough conversations.
Right.
And so when you don't want to, I don't want to, it's easy for everybody to say no. You can say no. But people don't realize that depending upon what it is, it's just as easy and even more powerful to be able to say yes.
Now, so on the lines of that, and when we're talking about Trump, and I want to talk about Clinton too, Hillary. So you think that he would be dangerous for the country, and that he's a racist and so on. And so if he won and got into office, do you think that? Because remember he said, Lord help, he said that we got to do something for our African American people. And so, do you think that he would do anything?
Yes, it's just like it was on the plantation. We got to do something for our people. We'll give them the pig guts so that they can have some nutrients.
I like that.
Yes. So we got to do something for our niggers, right? We got to do something for our niggers.
Yeah.
And so therefore, yes, Does that answer your question?
So some peanuts.
So that's how I see it, and I realize a lot of black folks, he's saying things and then the other thing is that,
and he got more support from blacks than probably Bush had, right?
Well, perhaps so, but at the same time, you're dealing. Okay, there's a whole psychology behind those stuff that we just don't even consider. We are, because we're so freaking emotional. Part of this is a consideration for us is that we are amongst the most disenfranchised, disconnected group in America besides our Native American brothers and sisters.
Right.
The most disenfranchised.
Right. Most of us got Indian blood.
Right. And most of us, many of us do. We do. And then you think about this is that, but the difference, not trying to create a wedge, but just recognize the difference as well as our commonalities or similarities, is that Native Americans are, are prisoners in their own country.
Right.
See, this is what we have to understand. And so since we're going to put you in this, in these prisons called reservations, we're going to also give some blood money, some guilt money.
Right.
So that you can always have some federal money coming in, and we'll even let you build some casinos, because we're going to make some money off of that too.
Right.
Okay, because this is a capitalist society, and everybody need to understand that. White supremacist America ain't going to do nothing where they ain't going to make no money.
Right.
That's
what's the difference between that and blacks? You saying that?
Yeah, the difference, is that they are prisoners in their own land.
Right.
We are prisoners stolen from another land.
Got you. Okay.
You see what I'm saying? Right. And so, but we don't reckon. So they'll always let a few prisoners out. We get out on good behavior. I got out on good behavior. So but I'm still labeled as felon. Convict. Whatever.
Right.
Whatever you're charged with.
Right.
You still labeled with it.
Right. So now when we look at Hillary,
and so those are the two. The difference between those
Hillary
two
would do. I mean, why are blacks rallying behind her? Because she's the lesser of evil? Or?
Well, yeah, because she's the lesser of two evils. And then they, I just feel as though they feel as though they can get that we may have more of a shot, because you got to remember, a lot of black folks are looking at what was gained through Bill, those 8 years he was in office, and that he's still connected, that he would be someone behind the scene to support, and that's still more of Clinton, of Bill, and they think they want to say that it's more of President Obama. And so then we have 4 years of Hillary. Right. So they're looking at this and putting this in somewhat of a package deal. That's what they're having it formulated as. And so there's a lot of folks that are in support of that process, because it was better. It appeared to be better. But a lot of people don't know that through Bill Clinton, the Welfare Reform Act came about. And if you really want to get real, you better look at what the Welfare Reform Act really has to say. There's a lot of stuff in there that is not so pleasant for us, that resulting for us. It was also things around the sentencing and so on and so forth.
Exactly.
So it's danged if you do, danged if you don't.
Now, what about Bernie?
Bernie has a lot of great ideas, but at the same time, Bernie, I want to know, I haven't heard how you really going to pay for this. I'm going to use this as an example. I like the idea that you think that community colleges and other colleges should be free.
Right, used to be.
And I like that idea, But now the question is, now that that's no longer what it used to be, and that's the whole point.
Right.
Things ain't what they used to be.
That's right.
It is what it is.
That's right.
So now, how are you going to do that? How are you going to get that paid for? And then the question is, because they're making it more difficult, it's being more difficult for kids of color to get in college. We're having a hard time. How do you get them? Because they're having a hard time through K-12. And so we're not even prepared.
Right.
So if you're going to do something about community colleges, you need to do something about the first and primary years of education before you start talking about free education.
By fifth
here.
grade, they already determined whether you're going to prison or not.
So this is how I'm looking at where Bernie's coming from. I understand his heart, and his belief process. I don't disagree with that. However, I think there's some other steps that may be missing that need to be thought about prior to that. If I'm going to have a concern as a parent, I'm going to be looking at what can I do right now and for the future.
Right.
So I'm not saying he can't do both, but my thing is, what are you going to do at the primary education level, K through 12?
Right.
That's what I want to know, because that's where the shift is really going to be, so that children can feel as though that it is a decent place for them to go for 5 or 6 hours a day, and sometimes longer. It was 5 days a week.
Right.
Influenced by certain teachers who really do not have necessarily the best interest of that child that's in front of them in mind.
Right.
So there's a lot of things associated with that.
Right.
So with Bernie, I think is great. I think that he touches the heart from the socialistic standpoint.
Right.
And I understand that, because we need pure capitalism is a destructor within itself. So there may need to be some aspects of socialist, connections, so that we all can benefit in America, and we live up to that creed, supposed to be all folks being equal, so to speak. So, and I'm gonna move on, because I want to finish this piece. You asked me about the question. It's just the fact that through what Bernie is doing, that he has to have a real mechanism to move the emotions along that he has galvanized. Now, if you look at he and Trump are preaching to the same crowd, but from different lenses. No, not just white folks, but from people who are fed up, people who are tired, people who are angry. They both are. Bernie got the young folks because that's Grandpa. And Grandpa stepping up for us. you what? You feel me?
Grandpa. Okay.
Yeah, because that's where he's 70-something years old, 74, something like Grandpa. Yeah. And many of them have not had a grandpa, and neither. So to me, there's a lot of psychological and emotional going on. Yeah. So it's just not one thing, and we need to be careful not to label it as one thing. Right. On the other hand, Trump is doing the same, preaching to people who feel like they're left out, they're not making money, and people who are being threatened. Yeah. White men who feel like they're being threatened by all these people of color and all these women and all these doggone gays. And look what happened this morning, in Orlando. I mean, So
let me ask you something.
Yeah. So that's how I look at the three of them.
It's like absolutely impossible, no matter what he says from this day forward, that you would not vote for Donald Trump.
No, I can't see. No, because this day forward does not change what he brought to him before he got to today.
So we can say the same thing about Hillary.
Well, I'm not saying that Hillary's changed. I didn't say that. You didn't ask me that.
No, I'm talking about we can say the same thing about Hillary, that when you look at her past, it's blemish.
But that's what I said. All three of them, to me, all three of them are blemish. Okay, Bernie, I'm glad that you were involved in some. I'm glad that you did some civil rights work. I'm glad. Yeah. So did I.
Yeah.
But I'm a black man in America, and certainly Bernie, Hillary, and Trump are how you going to be able to do that? And I don't know if they're going to really be able to do that in the way that they perceive it. But there's something they all have, and this is just me, because I'm very. My thing is about the cultural awareness.
Right.
They all have this thing that none of us have, and we want to pretend that we have.
Right.
And it's called white privilege.
Right. Right.
And I'm just saying.
Can you tell us in your own words what white privilege means to you?
Well, I mean, you, as a matter of fact, on the show the other day, we were talking about, because it's something I'm a little bit familiar with some of the work I do. A brother can go to jail, get out, and look for a job, and not have any opportunity for one at all.
Right.
White boy with the same charge, get out of jail, and he can go get him a job damn near the next day.
Right.
And I'm gonna use it. Wait. Okay. Then you take, a brother who has a 4-year degree, and you take a white boy who has a high school diploma, and they both apply for the same job.
Right.
Then. Far too often times, the white boy with just a high school diploma will get the job that your brother and the brother has a degree.
Right. Yeah, that's true. I've seen that.
I'm just saying, you know. So that's under white privilege.
Now let me ask you something, because I was doing some reading on a gentleman by the name of Brock Turner, and Brock Turner is a white ex-Stanford University swimmer who dreams based on his father and based on what the judge said. You know, he had dreams of more precious than women being raped, because they were trying to talk about, you know, all his dreams are ruined and all this because he raped a woman, and he had like about 3 felony charges against him. He got convicted of this, and what he did is he sexually assaulted a 23-year-old unconscious woman behind a dumpster. And then after they both left a campus party, and he only stopped when somebody came up on him, and he ran. They caught him. He got busted. The jury found him guilty of rape, and he faced a maximum sentence of 14 years. But he ended up getting sentenced to 6 months in county jail.
I heard about this case.
And he wouldn't even be sentenced to prison because the judge said that he felt it would have a severe impact on him. And then there's a gentleman named Scott Herhold, if I'm pronouncing his name right, with the Mercury News columnist, and he's a Mercury News columnist, and here's what he wrote. He says Santa Clara County Superior Court Judge Ann Persky will have to perform a legal incantation Thursday if he follows a probation recommendation and sentences Brock Turner to county jail rather than state prison. And then he says Persky should do it. Turner doesn't belong in prison. This is what the reporter is writing about. And just make a long story short, this reporter also wrote and said that, the probation made the right choice. They're doing the right sentence, and that, don't think he's getting off scot-free because he's going to have to register as a sex offender. And I thought about that because one of the things that you were just saying, it's a difference between when a black person is a registered sex offender and a white person.
Right.
And not only that, but we know that a black person would not have been sentenced to 6 months.
That's the white privilege.
Yeah, I was in the court with a young man that was sentenced for having a gun and being a felon or whatever. And the judge, and he had already done time, almost a year. And the judge said that judge sentenced him some 2 years, and therefore he's going to have to do a few months in prison. And so the judge said, I'm sending you to prison because I want you to see what it's like, and so on. And you kind of see the white privilege there in the sense of this black young man.
That would be another example.
We got to send you to prison. We're going to and where they saying here, there's nothing he can learn. He'd be severely traumatized by that. It'll mess up his life and so on.
Right.
When they think about white lives, they think about it from the perspective of preserving his value versus and its value versus blacks.
Right.
Like, let's
just that's part of that white privilege process and the value and how they see it. We dark-skinned people are perceived as more threatening, than others, than their white counterparts. Right. And then that's why we have more murders by police, by police, beat downs of women by police, and that the judicial system, consistently does not hold them accountable. But see, what the judicial system doesn't realize, or maybe they do, is that eventually what happens is that the people that continue to be oppressed, especially when it starts crossing gender and color lines, rise up, and that's what's called a revolution. Okay, and so. And now, since we live in a world where you can buy guns, and the NRA want to make sure that everybody can have a gun, then if I can have a gun, then there's going to be Wild Wild West out here. So judicial system has failed us, and I heard you speaking about Kamala, and she got, you can forgive her for some of the things that she did, okay, however, she's got to step up and say, hey, well, what kind of senator are you going to be? Because are you going to be the people's senator, or are you going to be the policy senator? Senator.
Exactly.
You see, and white folks like to hide behind policy, much like our black folks do. A lot of black folks now are starting to think that the white water's wetter and the ice is colder and the grass is greener. So they go over there and they find out that it's all artificial anyway, or synthetic or something. But it don't work for you. And now you done got your butt sick. And you're trying to bring that cancer back to our communities. That's kind of where we started. I'm just saying. So when you look at that, the biggest thing, the single greatest killer in America And this is the real conversation, Cornelius. We keep talking about it's cancer, it's gangs, it's this or that. The single biggest killer and threat to black people in America is white fear.
White fear. All right. And how do we identify that white fear? Is it what we see in the Trump
how you see it? Take from 16. How you identify it from 1619 when the first black face was brought here. To 2016.
I got you.
That's where you see white fear.
And that's true.
So you see, see, we don't have to keep looking. We keep looking at these big. I'm like, you guys, it's in front of your face every single day.
Exactly.
And everything, every structure. You know, so we have institutionalized and structural racism.
Yes.
You know, so white supremacy is to do just what it says.
Right.
Maintain supremacy.
Right. Now let me ask you a question, because I know we only have a few more minutes left. But we could talk all day. But the mayor here in San Diego, he won again.
Yeah.
And I guess
folks
are buying into the Faulkner doctrine, and there's many black leaders and pastors and so on that's behind him and supporting him. One of the things I'm trying to challenge him now on is the Summer Nights Light program, for the summer, because, with the gang commission, things like that. I called the mayor, I say, hey, you haven't done anything to put funding, anything into the community based on the strategic action plan we come up with. We're still struggling. We're supposed to go down there on Monday and try to get the city council to vote to put funding into the Summer Nights Light program, where we can affect these parks and get young people involved to prevent violence and crime from happening. But I haven't really seen any real action from the mayor when it comes to dealing with the black community.
No. Well, you won't, unless his feet is held to the fire. I'm just saying this real quick because I know you have a... Listen, this is just me. I'm a little bit hardcore about some of these things because I just seen too much and I'm tired.
Okay, me too.
Okay, at the age I'm at now, I'm just tired. Bottom line is, these people need to be called what they are.
Okay.
Publicly. Racist.
Right.
Period.
Right.
Bottom line, we got too many of these same leaders you talk about, whether they're political or whether they're religious or whatever, and they're scared to call a spade because they're too doggone busy thinking that they're gonna, stop getting something that they ain't getting in the first place.
Thank you.
And so you're not gonna get it because of the way that they use people who look like you, to pander to you, you who come from these communities, that grew up here in these communities, and they keep pandering to the puppet masters, and then we keep pandering to them. So we got these. That's what part of this process is. Bottom line, it's racist from the super board to the county board of supervisors all the way down. And then we got scared Negroes that don't want to do nothing.
Right.
So they're scared holding. So it's all about individualism. It's not really about the masses, but they say it's about the masses.
And that's why we have a problem with moving the community.
Absolutely. So you can sit and tell me how much you're a Christian, but if your behavior is something other than that, as a Christian, I'm supposed to check you. But when I check you, you get mad, and then you want to go. Then you want to do. You go back and then you start citing scripture because of your bad behavior. Excuse me. So I'm just stop. These people, old, middle-aged, young. Some of them are just they stuck. And they scared to lose. They're scared to call a spade a spade.
Right.
Brother Minister Farrakhan used to say. I heard him say, "You got to speak truth to power."
That's what I was just thinking.
And so the bottom line here is that community, you got to speak truth to the so-called immediate leadership power in our own community, and then you got to speak that same truth to the powers that be. Nothing in Southeast is going to change. That's why we lost so many different businesses. It's like us. We're closing down. So no support from the community the way we need
from
it.
The county,
and we're not getting it from the county. But to keep bringing in large organizations in our community, give them the multi-million dollars just to claiming to provide services to us that really don't. And the county doesn't monitor them enough, but they'll make us jump through big hoops. Look at all the places. Palaver Tree gone, Overcoming Gangs, and Beyond is gone. Coming Home to Stay is gone. Now Harmonic Solutions is gone. I mean, how much more? How much more is it going to take for you for those of us who can hear this voice today, that where you don't go back and collect and get your own, bring our black folks back home. We need to have a power base. We're only 5%, but that 5% in Sangamon County can make a difference if you come together with a common cultural consciousness.
Right, absolutely. I agree with that. So having said that, I know that we're out of time here, and so we thank you for tuning in to this show. It was a good show, and want to thank Hollifer King, Mr. Hollifer King, for being on the show. And we got to do this again, and I also want to encourage our listeners to come out and visit us at Charity Apostolic Church on Saturdays, 11:30 at 610 South 30th Street. So we hope to see you there. Tune in next week at 9 a.m. on Sunday for another great show. Thank you for tuning in to What's Happening Now on KBLKRadio.com, and we hope that you will tune in next week. God bless you.